Hello everyone, welcome back to Talking Reds. And Kieran Maguire said something very, very important when speaking to the fan debate on overlap, and he said that Manchester City will not be relegated from the Premier League, not essentially anyway as a rule, as a punishment from the Premier League because of their charges. So they were speaking about the 115 charges from for Manchester City from the Premier League, and the fact that Kieran said it wasn't actually 115 charges. What it is mainly 3 charges. One particular one being the frauds, a fraud charge, which is probably the worst of the worst in terms of really going at the Premier League and UEFA and cheating over UEFA and Premier League. So therefore, they will get the book thrown at them in terms of points deduction. But a relegation cannot happen, really. They could get banished from the Premier League, but it doesn't mean that EFL will be able to accept them or want to accept them. So what happens is if they were to relegate Premier League to relegate a team automatically, they would need to cooperate with EFL, and for EFL to accept them into the Championship or League One or whatever, for that to work out as a straight relegation punishment. However, because the two separate organisations, being EFL and the Premier League, it is more likely that a points deduction would be the punishment. Therefore, a relegation would come naturally after a points deduction, for example. So, what would the points deduction be, and what are the charges really for? So, the 3 main charges, obviously, for the fraud, but the other charges are broken down into certain sections. There's provided accurate financial information, 54 of those charges between certain years. There's 14 charges of details of player and management payments between those years. There's different kinds of ways. There's failure to cooperate with the Premier League. There's breaching of the Premier League's PSR rules, and there's also a failure to comply with UEFA's rules as well. So, fraud is probably the biggest thing you could do wrong in terms of against an organisation such as the Premier League, such as UEFA. Therefore, they will give them the biggest points deduction you can imagine. Which would probably lead to relegation anyway. However, they couldn't give a relegation as an actual punishment. So, what does this mean for the Premier League next season if this were to happen? But this could go on until 2018, according to the reports between Man City and Premier League in terms of the courts. So it might not know until a few seasons yet before we know the punishment of Manchester City. What deduction would they get? So we saw the administration of Rangers. They went down to League 2, I think, in Scotland. Before Juventus got punished by UEFA for financial fair play, they got kicked out of the Europa League conference and got fined. But I think just because Man City have done it to a certain extent and quite severe in terms of the fraud and the lying, I think it's mainly the lying and the not cooperating with Premier League or not cooperating with UEFA and not providing evidence. They are clearly hiding something probably serious. Therefore, I think they will absolutely throw the book at Manchester City, and that will be a big points deduction. So I'd be looking for like 40, 50 points deduction on Manchester City, which would mean they would need a very, very good season to stay out of that relegation zone. They are capable of that very, very good season if they were to do that, and if they get the players, which could be likely. If they only get a points deduction, it could be likely they keep the players, unless they go higher with points deduction, and then it's like nailed on guaranteed relegation. There's no way to get out of it. But I think it will be like a 40-50 one, based on the fact that they've got to give them sort of chance to get out of that relegation. And if they get out of it from that 50 point deduction, you're talking a 90 point season, which they have been doing. But if they get out of that, then it's like fair play, but it's not really fair play. But as in fair play is in that season, and I don't think Premier League would give him like an 100 point deduction, for example, or a 70 point deduction, because it's that you might as well say relegate them now. I think they would give them a 40-50 one just because it gives them a chance to get out of that relegation, and it's probably the biggest point deduction they've ever given. So it is. I think it's quite clear something is not right. I think it's quite clear that they have cheated in a way, using sponsorships to pay for things, using ownership money without making it legit or making it. There's something not right. Otherwise, they would have complied with Premier League. They would have complied with UEFA. They would have provided the evidence that they have for their finances, but they haven't. When you see every single season, they've got the highest amount of sponsorship or whatever, when they're not nowhere near the reach of Manchester United and Liverpool. They've got ticket sales or whatever, or merchandise sales up there with them, even though, they're not the reach of Liverpool, Man United, not even the reach of Tottenham or Arsenal or Chelsea. They might be getting there, but certainly nowhere near Liverpool or Manchester United specifically. So it's very, very dodgy. And for me, I think they are absolutely guilty of what's going on. Are they the full reason why we didn't win more Premier Leagues? No, I'll be honest. The part of it, also a massive part of it, but I think we need to look at it in the mirror ourselves in terms of ambition off the pitch. But I just think they've took the absolute pee out of the Premier League and UEFA, and I can't see them taking it lightly at all. However, like Kieran Maguire said, they can't really just say you've relegated. It'd be a huge, huge fine, probably a transfer ban. UEFA can kick them out of the Champions League for a couple of seasons, or whatever. But I think it will be a huge points reduction, mainly in terms of the impact on the Premier League itself directly. It will be a transfer ban and probably a big points reduction. However, I don't think they'll give them too much of a point reduction in terms of you might as well be relegated points reduction. It'll be enough to shake their boots a little bit and really make a statement. But then again, Premier League just might be that annoyed at what's gone on, and that really done over why all the lying and all the cover-ups and all the trying to take the pee out of them. They might just completely banish them from the Premier League. They could just easily just get them out of the Premier League, and then they would have to start again at the National League or whatever. They have to start again at some lower league, amateur, like semi-professional football. A bit like Wimbledon did when they capitulated, and now Wimbledon coming up. They would have to start there. And what would happen then is just a pyramid of for maybe one season, like the 4 clubs go up from the Championship. That's the only thing that I couldn't see them doing that, just because of the repercussions of everything else. The 4 Championship teams going up, the 5 League One teams going up. And I think this might be too much effect on the rest of the leagues if that were to happen. So a big points reduction is really, really likely, and probably the most likely outcome, according to Kieran Maguire as well. He's a financial expert, obviously, so he'll know a little bit more. But they'll fully deserve it. And whether their players stay or not, that's another question completely, because they will be staying in the Premier League. So therefore, they still play Premier League football. But the likeliness is that would they stay for another season, try to stay up, and then go from there again, potentially. And it all depends on Pep Guardiola as well, because if Man City get found guilty of this, and Pep Guardiola might not be in there by the time, but if they definitely get found guilty of it, I can see him going anyway. So the future of Man City is really in the hands of the Premier League right now. And, well, not the Premier League specifically, but the courts. If they found guilty, then it's up to the Premier League what the punishment is. And as a Man City, I don't know what Man City fans are thinking right now. And if I was a Man City fan, I would be really worried about my team. But they just become the club it was before, won't they? They just become a small club again. So it's not like they've been there. They've never been there. So anyway, thank you everyone for watching. What's your thoughts on the Manchester City situation? Do you think how big of a point situation do you think they're going to be? Do you think they're going to get found guilty or not guilty? And what does it say about the Premier League going forward as well? Does that mean Liverpool become favourites every single season? Does that give more incentive for Manchester United or Chelsea to come back into title races? What does it say about the future of the Premier League? Has the Premier League been saved if Manchester City get found guilty. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, notification bells on as well, because we get content out every single day, usually about Liverpool, but this one is covering Manchester City just today. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.